There is a quiet power that doesn't yell or try to prove itself to everyone. It just is. When things are going well, or when someone is being praised, it shows up when the wait is. That awful feeling you get when the quiet is too loud and no one answers. This strength is in the minds of people who don't give up and don't complain when things get hard. It's hard for people who won't settle for less than what their best selves deserve. This is what Stoicism is all about. The Stoics never promised ease. They sold false hopes of ease or comfort. What they really gave people was a way of being that could handle any storm, a way of life that would not shake you. Not because things got better, but because you became stronger in a world that constantly invites us to give up, to wallow, to shrink. This philosophy whispers, stand tall. This movie is not just a lesson, it is a call to arms, a challenge to live better, healthier, and with more purpose. We will look at what it means to never quit, to never complain, and to never settle through the eyes and knowledge of the Stoics. These are not just ideas, they are habits forged in fire. And if you let them, they will change your life. Let us begin Chapter 1. The fire that burns within. What does it mean to never quit? To the Stoic, stopping is not simply stopping a job. It is leaving your duty to the best version of yourself. It is a rejection of your reason, your will, and your character. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The moment we quit in our own control, we hand over our freedom. Not just figuratively, we lose the very structure of our inner life. Life will face you with tiredness, failure, and anger. These trials are not signals to retreat. They are signals to grow. They are the raw material through which you make your strength. They are the wet stone on which your resolve is sharpened. Every difficulty to the Stoic is not a penalty, but a form of training. The cold, the rejection, the repeat. It is all the syllabus of greatness. Each time you push through exhaustion, handle rejection, or move on in doubt, you don't merely endure. You grow, you learn to see struggle, not as an interruption, but as the road itself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This isn't intellectual verse. It's practical knowledge earned in the furnace of real life. Never stopping does not mean blind determination. It does not mean stupidly smashing your head against the wall or ignoring reality. It means picking the path of persistence with clarity and purpose. It means stopping when necessary, changing your stance, and returning every single day to your goal, your ideals, and your path. Even when your energy is spent, your drive lost, your hope reduced, the Stoic still rises, not because they are unshaken, but because they are based in something deeper than feeling their commitment. That commitment becomes your guide, leading you through storms to survive, is to fight the fall of your character in the face of hardship. It is to stay connected with your beliefs, even when the world tempts you to bend to survive. It is to trust that the repeat of right behavior, even in silence, is building something amazing within you. We must learn to keep showing up, not because we expect quick results, but because we know the process itself refines us. There will be pain. Yes, there will be question. Of course, there may even be hopelessness, but your spirit must be bigger than your mood, and your goal louder than your fear. This is what makes you unbreakable. You build yourself in the times when walking away seems easy. It is not in the win that character is born, but in the fight. Just before you decide to keep going, you grow muscle, spiritual, emotional, mental, by pushing into the resistance, not avoiding it. Every time you bear what your old self would have abandoned, you carve a new edge into your character. You train yourself to see pain, not as something to escape, but something to study. You develop grit by staying present in discomfort, understanding that this discomfort is not your enemy, but your call to grow. You gain clarity by going through chaos, because clarity does not fall from the clouds. It is won through endurance in chaos and that quiet choice to keep going, not once but every day, through boredom. Doubt, pressure, and tiredness is what will separate you from the majority who quit when it gets difficult. That's where the Stoic shines, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, where no applause is given. The Stoics did not celebrate battle for struggle's sake, but they respected perseverance as a furnace where meaning is formed. They knew the one who endures gets not just success, but wisdom. That wisdom is not found in ideas or books. It is found in action, in doing the work. No one sees in picking the right thing when the easy thing seduces you. It is found in the silence of steady work. So ask yourself, if you do not quit today, what might you become tomorrow? What better level of strength, of presence, of peace might meet you just on the other side of this hardship? What new strength, what new clarity, what new self might come from the pain you resisted giving into what untapped promise waits behind one more day of effort? What is possible when you decide that nothing, not failure, not tiredness, not fear, will force you off your way? What would life look like if you truly accepted the idea, I will not quit, not today, not ever? That choice repeated again and again will shape not only your outcomes, but your identity. Will shape your soul into something that even hardship must respect. Write down the one thing you're most likely to quit when it gets hard. Then write out the reasons why it matters to you. When the moment of stopping comes, and it will return to that list, tell yourself of your why. Choose to stay in the fight. Chapter 2. Discipline is fate. Seneca reminds us, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Those words are not just a reminder. They are a sign quitting often starts long before we notice it. It begins quietly in quiet moments of agreement. It starts in small acts of self-betrayal, skipping the gym, forgetting your writing, letting your anger decide your deeds instead of reason. It creeps in when we lower the bar for ourselves and call it rest, when we let comfort become a cage. The Stoics were watchful about these small mistakes because they knew a single day's weakness repeated can become a lifetime of resignation. The Stoics thought that life is a matter of training. They compared the soul to a muscle and the mind to a blade. Both must be made sharpened and kept through practice and struggle. Nothing of lasting value is built without strain. Just as an athlete trains for competition through hours of unseen work, we must train daily to survive the mental, emotional, and spiritual fights ahead. That training is not exciting. It's in the cold mornings when your bed tempts you to stay. It's in the uncelebrated acts where no praise waits. It's in the choice to do what's necessary over what's easy. Discipline is not punishment. It is preparation. It is the base upon which strength is built. It is the means through which we claim control of our time, our choices, and our character. Without it, life moves with it. Life sharpens to never quit. You must first become the kind of person who doesn't quit. That change is not a single moment of inspiration, but the result of constant commitment. It's a habit, a stance toward life, a choice renewed every day in the face of pushback. It takes more than inspiration, which fades as quickly as it comes and cannot be counted upon when the day turns dark. It demands order that holds you up. When excitement fades, when the morning is heavy, and the reasons feel far away, it demands goal that keeps you pointed toward what matters, even when distractions pull at your mind and fears whisper lies into your ear, and it demands inner harmony between who you are and who you are becoming, a union of thought, word, and deed. It means controlling your mind, which is often the most chaotic force we face, constantly changing with feelings and stories. It means getting up early, even when you don't feel like it, not because it's hip, but because it reclaims your time from chaos. It means saying no to distractions, even when they offer brief pleasure, because they cost you your presence, your goal. It means back to your ideals, again and again, especially when the noise of life tempts you to leave them. Especially when arguments sound noble, and stopping wears the mask of self-care. Each focused act is a vote for your future self. Each failure to betray your standards is a nod to your better self. Each moment of self-restraint is an act of self-respect. Every time you choose structure over emotion, you are setting a vote for the person you plan to become, and that person becomes more real with every choice. And finally, that person emerges, not by chance, but by design, molded by thousands of choices no one else sees. And when you feel the pull to stop, when your courage starts to fade, and the reasons begin to sound reasonable, remember this: you are not alone. You are taking a road that countless others have walked before you, some in silence, some in difficulty, some in the face of great pain, all learning the same endless lesson. Endurance is gained. Every Stoic before you, kings, slaves, thinkers, generals, has faced the same pushback. Their circumstances may have varied wildly, but their fights were human, just like yours. They weren't superheroes. They weren't immune to fear or doubt. They were simply committed. They chose to endure when the easier choice was to fold. They chose to rise when everything inside them begged for comfort. Let their example become your support. Let their memory remind you that strength is not born, it is built. Built in quiet hours when no one is clapping. Built in hidden choices made with no praise. Built through the continued choices to remain, no matter how small the step forward may be. Because every small step adds up. Every quiet moment of grit becomes part of a base that can hold up the weight of a worthwhile life. And that base becomes solid, not because it never saw the storm, but because it stood through it. You will not be defined by how many times you felt like stopping. You will be defined by how often you chose not to commit to one focused action this week that you've been avoiding. Track it daily. Hold yourself responsible as if your life counted on it. Because in many ways, it does. Chapter 3, Hurdles Are the Test. The Stoics never saw hardship as misfortune. They saw it as chance, raw, unshaped, and often uncomfortable. They thought that trouble was not only inevitable, but important. It's not the easy road that shows our character. It's the hard one. The challenge, as Marcus Aurelius taught, is not in the way it is. The way what you run from is often the very thing meant to make you into someone bigger. And this was not a metaphor for them. It was a real experience. They believed you don't grow in spite of hurdles, but because of them. Every time life tests you, you are faced with a choice. Will you rise or will you shrink? Will you read difficulty as a sign to stop or as a call to rise? The Stoics would tell you, rise because that moment is your teacher. The rejection, the injury, the failure, all of it is molding you into something bigger. You do not know who you are until you're tried. And it is only through obstacles that the power within you is exposed. Each trial holds within it the chance of change. If only you'll stay long enough to listen, to learn, and to grow when you quit. You rob yourself of the very thing that could change you. You leave your growth just before it had the chance to break through. You sacrifice your potential in favor of temporary relief. But when you stay, when you lean into the pressure, into the discomfort, into the resistance, you unlock new strength. You discover a depth of resilience that would stay hidden if you had walked away. That strength is not given to you. It is called from within by your unwillingness to be broken. The Stoic does not fight pain because they enjoy it. They bear it because they see beyond it. They are working towards something more lasting. The growth of the soul. The man who never quits is not confident. He feels the fear. He feels the doubt, but he does not follow them. He doesn't let them determine the course of his life. He simply sees that bravery only exists in the face of fear. Without fear, there is no courage, only habits, only security, masked as discipline to move forward, despite the trembling in your hands or the ache in your chest. That is the meaning of guts, to keep standing when your legs shake, to speak truth when your voice wavers, to act when every part of you wants to hide. That is where real power is born. He does not mistake the lack of feeling for strength, nor does he wait for fear to vanish. Before he acts through it, with it beside it. The fear walks with him, but it does not lead. He chooses to walk through it, to deal with it, to stare it in the face and say, "You may stay, but you won't stop me." To rise, not in the lack of hardship, but in the presence of it. That is the heart of Stoic resolve. It is the quiet resistance that says, "Not today, I am still here." This is the calm warrior, not unbeatable, but unyielding, not untouched by pain, but shaped by it, evolved by it, refined through it, not protected from suffering, but hardened and wise because of it. His strength does not come from claiming things are easy, but from showing up even when they aren't, not depending on effects, but committed to the process. He lives not for success alone, but for the discipline of showing up. His character is not built on success, but on relentless presence. He is proof that bravery is not the lack of fear. It is the unwillingness to surrender to it. Think of one obstacle in your life right now. Reframe it. Write out how this very task could become your edge. How might it teach you, improve you, strengthen you? Then take one action that accepts it instead of fighting it. Chapter 4. The role of duty. The Stoics didn't just act for themselves. They acted from duty. Their choices were not based around pleasure, applause, or ease. Marcus Aurelius, who led an empire under unthinkable pressure, told himself daily that his job was not to enjoy life, but to achieve it. When you arise in the morning, think of what a beautiful pleasure it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. He understood that life was not due to him, and that each day was not a hardship, but a calling. His sense of duty steadied him amidst chaos, while others sought ease. He sought to serve, while others waited for the right conditions. He moved forward with flawed strength, driven by meaning. When we connect our efforts to something bigger than our own comfort, stopping becomes less tempting. We begin to see that our lives are not separate units of existence. We are threads in a bigger cloth, and our strength or lack of it affects the weave of everything around us. Our daily choices add to a bigger story. Our ability to continue to rise each day with purpose becomes more than self-preservation. It becomes service. Our deeds spread outward in ways we may never fully see. The words we talk, the discipline we practice, the courage we embody, they become echoes in someone else's life. There is someone somewhere watching us consciously, or not, to know what endurance looks like. Maybe it's a child learning what it means to be steady and reliable in a wild world. Maybe it's a peer quietly measuring whether to keep pushing or to walk away. Maybe it's a stranger on the edge of giving up who just needs one example of resilience to hold on to someone. Live proof that strength isn't mythological. Its practice be their model. Be the reason they believe strength still exists in this world. Be the signal fire that tells others not to quit. Be the proof that principle can still win over convenience. That real power lies not in control, but in courage. Not in power, but in virtue. Job means showing up even when it's difficult. It means moving forward. When you're tired, when the road is unknown, when your feelings beg for retreat. It means choosing principle over preference, choosing action over avoidance, and ideals over proof. It means doing the work, even when no one is looking, and no credit waits at the end. Not for praise, but because it's right. It means staying firm in your word, not because it impresses others, but because it matches you with your best self. It means making yourself responsible, not just to people, but to a standard that holds. Even when the attention fades, duty means following your promises, even when they're no longer exciting. Even when the fire has cooled and the benefits are not instant. It means returning again and again to the promises you made to yourself and others, even when your feelings no longer support those claims. It means rejecting the tempting pull of ease. When every part of you is asking to disconnect, it means acting from the place of principle, not choice, from your better self, not your lower times. It means standing guard at the door of your beliefs, refusing to let them erode with tiredness, anger, or outside influence. Your beliefs are your shelter. When you leave them unchecked, you leave yourself unprotected. To keep duty is to stand as a guard over your character, is to carry a sense of mission into the mundane, to see meaning, even in repetition. It is saying yes to the hard thing, again and again, not because it feels good, but because it makes you good. It means bringing your beliefs like a torch through the darkness, so that others may see the way, and so that you may never forget your way that torch. However, heavy lights the way. For generations, you may not always see the lives your example touches, but rest assured, the effect of living with integrity echoes. It's the father whose silence teaches his son to be steady, the friend whose loyalty makes others feel safe, the leader whose trustworthiness sets the beat of trust. Job is not glamour, it is grit. It is the long haul, the secret work, the steady hand. It is a duty and an honor. It is the unseen impact we leave in the world, the quiet guidance of example, the moral framework of daily life. It asks more of us than we think we can give. But in meeting its call, we become more than we thought. And perhaps the most noble kind of power we can possess is not power over others, but stability within ourselves. When the noise of the world fades, when trends disappear and applause dies down, what will remain is the steady rhythm of a life lived with duty in a world where many chase influence. Those who represent duty will always carry the true weight of respect, the kind that is felt in silence and remembered long after words fade, the kind that makes a soul unforgettable. Define your job who relies on your strength. What standard do you want to set in your family, your community, your craft? Connect yourself to that image every time you want to quit. Chapter 5, The Power of the Present. Struggle. It's easy to stop when you live in the past or future, when your mind is frightened by what could have been or overwhelmed by what might come. You remove yourself from the only place you have any power right now. The Stoics train themselves with absolute urgency to stay grounded in the present moment. They knew that dwelling on the past causes shame, and worrying about the future creates worry. But the present, that is where your hands can change your breath, can center, and your will can act. Right now is all you have, not tomorrow, not next week, this breath, this choice. Marcus Aurelius suggested, confine yourself to the present. This isn't idle acceptance, it's active engagement. It's a bold form of courage to be fully present with your pain, your confusion, your doubt, and not run from it. The present moment holds all the tools you need to grow, but only if you're willing to look, feel, and act within it. The urge to escape into the past or jump ahead to the future is tempting because it takes us from the discomfort of now. But the Stoics knew that presence is the fight. It is where we meet our fears, where we tame our impulses, where we choose the next right action, not the easy one. When you are fully present, you understand that most problems are endurable. You notice that fear shrinks when studied, that doubt softens when met head on. They lose their power when you face them directly. The rock that looks so huge from a distance becomes just one step, and then another and another. That's how real strength is built, through measured balanced action. You don't need to tackle the full mountain today. Just take one step, then take another tomorrow. Presence turns the impossible into the doable, the overwhelming into the doable. Stopping often feels like relief, but it is a dream. It is the idea of rest when what you really need is resolve. It is the soft draw of fake safety, of stepping back, not to gain power, but to avoid the roughness of change. It is the false comfort of freedom, when the very pain you're trying to flee is the entrance to your growth. Pain is not your sentence, it's your way. It teaches, it sharpens. It shows the holes in your strength, not to shame you, but to show you where to grow. Stopping is not an exit. It is a forfeiting of the very chance that pain offers you. It is the comfort of turning away from growth, of choosing silence. Not because it's peaceful, but because it's safe, expected, and void of pain. But the moment you turn away, you also turn away from the version of yourself. You are capable of becoming the stronger, smarter, better version of you, who lives on the other side of trouble. Growth doesn't hide in the future or stay in the past. It rises from the dirt of the now. It is born in action, watered by effort, and fed by persistence. The present moment, though tough, is trying to hand you the tools for your change. Your trials are not without meaning. They are forming you. Each test is a forge, and each battle a sculptor. You are being refined. Stay, struggle with it. Wrestle with your limits. Breathe through the stress. Sit with the pain. Speak truth when it's hard. Take the action that feels heavy. Meet your edge and stay there. Push it a little further. This is where change starts. Not in the vacation, not in the avoidance, but in the heart of the pressure. Because every great change is born in the fire of the present problem. That fire forges strength, burns away fantasy, and shows what you're really made of. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't care about your timeline. It simply offers the raw material of growth and asks if you're willing to engage with it. That fire tests you, not to break you, but to improve you. It's the place where excuses are revealed, where clarity is carved out of chaos, and where resolve is won, not given the heat of the moment may feel unbearable, but it is the very thing that forms the steel of your character. It expects something from you, not perfection, but presence, not big actions, but quiet consistency. That fire asks for your patience, your attention, your humility. It asks you to lean in instead of pull away, to listen more closely to your own soul, to bring your full self. Even when you feel broken or tired, to stop waiting for the perfect plan or the perfect feeling, and to instead trust that showing up fully is more powerful than showing up perfectly. It doesn't need flawless performance. It needs your full cooperation. It doesn't care how messy your work looks. It only asks that your effort be real and your heart involved. It needs your desire to stay with what's hard. Instead of running to what's easy, it needs your control. When inspiration leaves your breath, when fear rises your balance, when everything feels shaky. It's in those moments when everything inside you says quit, that your biggest success often sits quietly, waiting behind your refusal to give up. You can only become who you are meant to be by staying fixed here, doing the hard thing now, not later, not when you feel better, not when life gets easy, not when the world calms down, or you feel ready. Readiness rarely arrives before action. It is called by it now. That word is where life lives. Because readiness is often born from moving, not before it. Momentum provides clarity. Action builds faith. Repeat strengthens resolve. And every future you dream of, every goal, every breakthrough, every success rests on the step you take today. Not someday, not when conditions are perfect, but now, always now. Because the present moment is not only where your life happens, it is where your change is waiting. The fire of now doesn't just test who you are. It forges who you're becoming. Practice presence under pressure. When you feel the urge to give up, pause, breathe. Bring your awareness fully to the moment. Say to yourself, this is where I build my strength. Then take the smallest next step forward. Chapter 6. The load of anger to complain is to fight reality without giving an answer. It is to experience pain without growth, to practice damage without healing. Complaining gives voice to anger, but offers no way forward. The Stoics believed that complaint is the voice of an untrained mind, one that hasn't yet learned to separate what is within our control from what is not to them. A complaint was not merely an expression of unhappiness, but a signal that the mind is focused outward instead of looking inward to build strength. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that counts. He meant that behavior is everything. The event is neutral. The reaction is where power or weakness is chosen. Whining ties us to victimhood. It keeps us in a loop of helplessness, telling us that the external world must change for our peace to return it. Persuades us that life owes us security and fairness, that until the world bends to our liking, we cannot be calm or content. It says that our mental health is based on everything outside of us acting perfectly. This belief feeds weakness and numbs initiative. But the Stoics flipped the script. They taught that peace comes not from ruling the world, but from mastering our response to it. To complain is to feel the pain twice, once through reality and again through reflection. We experience the event and then we relive it endlessly in our mind, adding comments, judgment, and resentment. The Stoic seeks to end this loop, not by ignoring pain, but by dealing with it differently, by picking analysis over impulse, thought over reaction. They treat difficulty like an artist treats raw material, not with scorn, but with an eye for change. The mind that moans has not yet turned inward. It is still looking outward for justice, for fairness, for order. It's waiting for the world to give balance instead of building internal security. But life is not fair, and nature owes us nothing. Expecting fairness from fate is like asking the sea not to be wet. Pain is part of the human experience, not its exception. Marcus Aurelius told himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That understanding was his armor. He faced wars, plagues, betrayal, and loss, but he did not curse the sky. He turned inward to what he could control: his thoughts, his actions, his outlook. This was not quiet surrender. It was strong control. The complaint dies when duty is born, and responsibility begins when we stop describing the pain and start using it. When we say, "This is mine to carry, so let me carry it," well, not with anger, but with purpose, not to be praised, but to be strong. To live without complaint is not to live without battle. It is to choose strength over sadness, stance over pity, action over noise. It is to understand that battle is not a reason to withdraw, but a reason to engage more deeply. The Stoic knows that the world will not always be kind, that fate will not always favor them, but they do not hand over their peace to situation. They do not depend on fairness to be good or ease to be strong. They understand that their character is formed, not by what happens, but by how they meet it. They accept the moments and ask, "What can I do now?" This is not silence, it is action. Not silencing, but redirection. They take the sting of anger and turn it into fuel. They take suffering and make it a forge. They stop expecting comfort and start building character. In doing so, they become not only more strong, but more important to themselves, to their group, and to the world. They become the kind of person others can look to when life gets hard, not because they complain, but because they've chosen courage. Instead, spend one day without a single complaint, not one word of anger, not one sigh of disapproval. At the end of the day, think on what changed in your energy, your stance, your focus. This is your glimpse into power. Reclaim Chapter 7, the language of strength. Words change perception, and the words we choose, especially under pressure, show the design of our thinking. The Stoics were masters of restraint, not just in action, but in speech, because to complain is not just to describe a situation, it is to judge it, to react to it, to put feeling into a story that often deepens pain. Words are not simply sound, they are symbols, signs, choices. The Stoics knew that language is never neutral. What we say, we support. What we repeat, we begin to believe. What we believe, we begin to live. And what we live, we begin to become. When we say, "I can't take this," we shrink our ability before it's truly tried. When we say, "This isn't fair," we set ourselves against life rather than beside it. These words may seem small, even innocent, but repeated often enough, they train the mind to flee from hardship rather than face it. They plant seeds of weakness, which grow into habits of helplessness. Complaining weakens the soul, not only because it avoids duty, but because it reprograms the way we understand reality. The problem is not only the pain, but the story we attach to the pain. Words can chain us to a problem or unlock our power to rise above it. Stoic strength is silent strength, not stifled but honed. It does not shout to prove its presence. It speaks with aim, with purpose, with clarity. Seneca recommended speech in defense of philosophy should be simple and straightforward. What he meant was that knowledge doesn't need drama. Courage doesn't whine purpose, doesn't worry. A mind trained in Stoicism talks less to be heard and more to be effective. It uses words to guide, not to grumble, to teach, not to expand, to reflect, not to rant. It speaks to build bridges of meaning, not to repeat the noise of complaint. Complaining is loud and messy. It spills feeling without discipline. It seeks affirmation without giving closure. But the Stoic method is different. It filters language through principle. It slows the tongue to sharpen the thought. Before speaking, ask, is this useful? Is this true? Is this important? If not, it may be better. Left unsaid. The warrior of the mind speaks with reserve, not because they fear speech, but because they respect it. They understand the weight of words, and they handle them with care. Their words build, clarify, elevate. Their silence too speaks loudly, and when they speak of pain, They speak with purpose, not to pity themselves, but to share strength. Their language is their leadership. Their words become a mirror of their inner discipline, an everyday image of their training and their truth. Check your words for one full day. Write down things you often say. Under stress, are they inspiring? Are they honest? Are they rooted in duty? Or blame replace, complaints with questions. Instead of why me ask, what can I learn? Instead of this is too much. Try this is my training ground. Your tongue shows your training. Let it show your strength. Chapter 8. Comparison is poison. One of the quietest forms of complaint is comparison. When we look at others and feel reduced, when we measure our lives against someone else's highlight reel, we're not only insulting our own path, we're giving our peace away. The Stoics warned against the danger of envy and jealousy, not because they were morally bad, but because they are emotionally useless. Comparison steals the present moment and replaces it with anger. Seneca put it simply, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor. And often we crave more, not because we truly need it, but because someone else has it. Comparison trains the mind to see lack. Where there is excess, it reprograms our thanks into anger. The Stoic road is not about being indifferent to progress, but about judging your progress by your own standard, not by another's timeline. When you complain through comparison, you are essentially saying, my life is not good enough, unless it looks like theirs. That is a dangerous surrender. It erodes agency and hides uniqueness. The Stoic sees this clearly. They remember that each person walks their own road with their own challenges and gifts. No life is truly as perfect as it looks, and no peace can be built on someone else's basis. To release ourselves from the trap of comparison, we must turn attention inward. Am I living according to my values? Am I doing what I can with what I have? Am I better not just my circumstances, but my character? These are the only similarities worth making. The rest are distractions that drain your focus. Every time you catch yourself comparing, pause, say aloud, that is not my path. Then return your mind to your next right step. Comparison is a thief, but attention is a tool. Chapter 9. The practice of gratitude. Gratitude is not the rejection of struggle. It is the refuse to be marked by it. It is the mindful act of seeing light in the middle of shadows, of finding worth, even in the pits of struggle. The Stoics practice thanks, not in the lack of suffering, but in its presence. They saw thankfulness as a form of mental practice, a way of refusing to let what is missing overshadow what is present. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not indulge in dreams of having what you have not, but reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess." In other words, the power to rethink is always in your hands when you choose to focus on what remains. You improve your ability to carry what's tough. We complain when we forget that this moment, however broken, is a moment. Some people are hoping for that. This breath, however worried, is still a gift. That this body, however tired, is still capable. That simply waking up with a chance to try again is a gift, not a burden. That to fight is to be alive. That to feel is to still have a beat. We forget that there are people facing wars. We don't see carrying loads bigger than ours and still managing to find beauty in small things like a warm cup of tea, a morning breeze, a single quiet moment of peace. Thanks is clarity. It gives perspective when fear clouds the mind. It humbles ego and burns away the fog of privilege. It pulls our attention away from what's missing and focuses it on what's staying. It stops the circle of self-pity. It sharpens the voice of knowledge. It says, look at what is still here, instead of look at what you lost. It gently tells you that enough exists in this moment if you are willing to see it. And when practiced consistently, gratitude builds resiliency like a muscle stronger. With repetition, steadier under pressure. It is a kind of mental armor built through trials, tried in uncertainty. Matured by time, gratitude is not a response, but a readiness. The more you practice it, the more it becomes your natural view, your instinctive stance when life becomes heavy. Gratitude changes how we carry suffering. It allows us to hold pain with open hands, not tight fists. It turns times of irritation into times of understanding. It turns routine into ritual. It gives meaning to effort. It doesn't numb us to pain, but it stops pain from becoming bitterness. It doesn't make problems disappear, but it shifts our relationship to them so they become part of the path, not the reason to give up. Thanksgiving doesn't ignore pain. It meets it with grace. It recognizes trouble, but refuses to be imprisoned by it. It says, yes, this is hard, but I'm still here. And that means there is still something to be honored, something to be saved, something to be strengthened. It reframes life as holy. It says there's still something to build, something to carry forward in this way. Thanks becomes a quiet kind of courage. It is not loud or showy. It is grounded, steady, enduring. It is a quiet rebellion against depression. It gives us access to joy without needing our situations to change it. Helps us to carry our loads with pride, to face our hardships with the perspective to find power, not in perfection, but in presence. Thanks doesn't remove hardship. It reframes it. It turns tragedy into witness. It gives meaning to the mundane and purpose to the pain. The Stoic does not wake up waiting to feel thankful. They make the feeling by moving attention. They take their thoughts by the hand and point it toward what is working, what is good, what is important. They tell themselves that everything they have is temporary, and so nothing should be taken for granted. They focus on what is left, not what has been taken. They give thanks for chances to endure, to act, to rise. Because every day that allows us to follow our morals is a day to be grateful. Even pain becomes sacred when it refines us. Even failures become sacred when they show strength. Even the stillness between chapters in life is holy when we see it through the eyes of gratitude. Complaint robs energy, thanks restores it. One drains your mind, the other fuels it. Gratitude is not a feeling. It is an attitude, a deliberate decision to see beyond what is lost, and instead draw strength from what remains. And in a world that trains us to chase more, thanks teaches us to honor what we already have right now. In this breath, in this moment, it is how the Stoic turns shortage into sufficiency, suffering into balance and survival, into something noble. Begin or end each day by writing 3 things you are truly thankful for, not vague fake statements, but earnest recognitions. If your day was hard, find what improved you. If it was easy, find what balanced you. Let thanks be your discipline, not your mood. Chapter 10, Never Settle to Never Settle, is to never stop aiming for the best within you, not the best measured by praise or success, but the best measured by principle. The Stoics thought that greatness aright was the best goal. It meant virtue in action, character lived out day after day, regardless of awareness. It wasn't a finish line. It was a way of being, a practice of the soul. To settle is to abandon that goal. It is to swap possibility for comfort, integrity for approval, progress for ease. It is to give up the trip for the idea of rest, and that fantasy, tempting as it may seem, is the true enemy of greatness. It tempts you with ease while quietly taking your edge. Settling is the soft yielding we don't even notice until we've floated far from who we meant to become when we settle. We quietly agree to stop growing. We drop the bar, not because it's smart, but because it's easy, and ease unchecked becomes erosion. The Stoics warned of this. The soul, like a blade, dulls when unused. They didn't chase perfection. They chased stability, not greatness, but goodness, not comfort, but clarity. They knew that greatness is not a time, but a habit, formed in repeat and thought to never settle, means holding yourself to a standard, even when no one is watching it, means asking more of yourself, even when the world asks for less. It means doing the hard thing, not for glory, but for growth. It is a personal bond between who you are and who you could become, a pledge to the inner flame. Even when the road is cold, resting is not about circumstances. It is about attitude. You can live in poor means and still hold high standards. You can face loss and still refuse to weaken your discipline. You can be forgotten by the world and still stay true to your work. The Stoic does not measure success by winning. They measure it by the purity of effort, the depth of purpose, and the guts to continue. They ask themselves, did I give everything I could with honor? If the answer is yes, that is enough. That is win, regardless of result. To the Stoic, every moment of effort is important, even if no one applauds it, even if no one sees it, because the soul sees and the soul remembers to never rest, is to see your time as holy, your energy as valuable, your potential as real. Every second is a deposit into the life you are making, and to waste it is to disrespect the quiet fire within you that knows you are meant for more. It is to live as if your life matters, because it does not just to others, but to you. You have a duty to yourself, to become who you're capable of becoming. It is to reject failure, not with arrogance, but with commitment to what is possible, not because you are entitled to greatness, but because you are called to growth. You are not here to coast. You are not here to repeat. You are here to rise, and that rising must be chosen every single day, not once, but again and again, in the forgotten places of your life, in the unseen times that seem regular, but build your character in how you hold yourself during quiet hours when no crowd applauds and no feedback follows, and how you keep vows that no one else knows about, not because someone will find out, but because your word matters to you, and how you train your thinking kindly, but strongly guiding them when they wander toward weakness, when they start creating reasons instead of strategy, and how you show up when it's hard and when it's easy to give only half, in how you avoid cutting cuts, in how you speak to yourself when you fall short, whether you offer kindness or weaponize shame, in how you bounce after failure and choose to keep your standard high, to refuse to let sadness become your default, to never settle, means constantly calling yourself back to balance again and again, especially when the world isn't watching. To never settle is to make greatness your practice and virtue your prize. It is to live with a kind of holy dedication to your growth, a quiet, ongoing promise to show up fully, to do what's right, even when it's unseen, and to hold yourself to the truth, in your bones. It is not about being perfect. It is about being true to your growth. It is about trying not because you hate who you are, but because you love who you're becoming. It is to say through action that you will not quit the work of becoming, not now, not ever, that you will not let the discomfort of growth cause you to settle with comfort, that no matter how slow your progress feels, you will not trade your values for ease. You will not shrink to fit comfort. You will not numb to escape pressure. You will not let the noise of the world drown out the truth of your calling. You will lean in. You will endure. You will stand again and again. You will choose the way that asks more from you. Because you know it will bring out the best in you. You will take the long way, not because it's easier, but because it's honest. Because tricks shrink your spirit, and discipline builds it. To never settle is to remember, in the times that most tempt you to settle, that your soul was built for more, and that you are always in the process of becoming. You are the creator of your inner life, and greatness is not a goal, but a choice, made every hour, every test, every step. Keep picking, keep rising. Find one place where you've been settling, whether in your habits, your ideals, or your self-respect. Name it clearly. Then define what excellence would look like in that area. Take one conscious step today toward that goal. Never settle. Not because you must be perfect, but because you were never meant to stay small.